I want you to think back to the first time you ever remember being truly afraid. What was it? Does it stick with you today? This is the sort of thing that we talk about on the House of Asher. Won't you join us? And welcome back to House of Asher. This is episode 29. I am your host, Steve E. Asher. Not sure why I did that. I think I went back to my old radio disc jockey days, where you talk real smooth like that. Get everybody cool. Anyway, good morning. It's a pre-4th of July. The air still smells of gunpowder, and the ringing of firecrackers still assail my ears. Set off a bunch of firecrackers, a bunch of bottle rockets, a lot of sparklers, all kinds of crazy wackadoodle stuff, man. But it was good. It was good times. And wherever you're at, you know, people have different takes, especially if maybe out of the country or whatever. Even some people in the country. But you know, 4th of July was always a big thing in my family, so we celebrate it. You know, we celebrate it for the memory of the people who, you know, fought and died and to defend our country, and that's what I do. You know, I'm a patriotic guy, so you guys are going to have to deal with that. Anyway, so check it out. As I told you, this is episode 29, and something that happened this evening, or actually just last evening, it was like the day after the 4th, and so I was out doing some stuff with my family here at Asher Keep, and so anyway, while I was outside, it was a pretty clear night, and started seeing that, well, it was really weird. I don't think they were ships or some sort of craft, but they definitely were odd. There were 3 of them. One come, and it would kind of go across the sky over to let me see if I'm to the south, the east, and the west. It would be, it come out northwest, traveled, I'd say maybe a couple thousand feet up. It wasn't very high, and these objects were maybe the size of my thumbnail in comparison from the ground. Anyway, these little objects come by, and they had sort of a glowish to them, almost a flicker, not quite like a afterburner or something like that. It was more smoldering, more controlled. And one would come across pretty much in a straight pattern. And what was weird is you never saw anything launched. You never saw anything like that. They just faded into view, went across the sky silently. There was no acrobatics, no 90-degree turns, no picking up cows. Nobody was probed. But anyway, went across the sky, and I would say went from well beyond the edge of the city and faded out probably 7-8 miles into the night sky with just a gentle sort of dim down. Wasn't a pop, fizz, anything like that. There was no debris falling off of it, so I don't know what it was. If it was a firework, it was pretty weird. Could it have possibly been like what do you call it, a Chinese box, or what do you call it, with a little candle, possibly? But what was weird, there were 3, and again, you never saw it launch. It just blipped into view, and they just followed each other pretty much in a straight line, and then just faded away. There was nothing else like that coming from that area, because I waited for a while, and my wife Cheyenne took a video of it, and as usual with a cell phone, it was pretty high up. There was nothing. It was dark, so it was not easy to keep the fade or keep the auto focus and stuff in check. But it was kind of weird. I mean, it was neat. It was great. I mean, I've seen falling stars. I've seen, the space shuttle or what you call space stations go over, and meteorites and all that. I mean, I've watched the night sky quite a bit, and that was something kind of different. I'm not saying like, oh my God, we've had a sighting here in Princeton, Kentucky. I'm not saying that, but you never know. You don't, you can't verify. I'm waiting to hear back. I'd posted on social media asking people, anybody in this area, if they've seen any movement over Princeton, Kentucky last night, and haven't got a whole lot back. Which, unless it's on the 4th or something, which a lot of times you'll hear of supposed ships or something watching, say, maybe spaceship launches, which would make sense. They want to know what we're capable of. Sometimes at ball games, large social gatherings, it'd be, if it is something extraterrestrial, it'd be a perfect time to watch us interact and some of our rituals. And which baseball, I mean, man, you talk to any sports fan, sports is a religion, and watch our interactions with that. But it was just really kind of neat. And everybody thinks of areas, the Kingdom of Nye out close to area 51, the Rendlesham Forest incidents. If any of you are very steeped in ufology, you've heard about like the battle over Los Angeles and all the different kooky weird sightings that have been claimed to happen all across the country. But one of the things that is sort of a local claim to fame, which I think is extremely interesting, is the Kelly Hopkinsville, Kentucky encounter. Some people call it the Hopkinsville Goblin case, the Kelly Green Man case. There's a lot of different little names for this. But more or less what had happened, there was a claim about a close encounter with some extraterrestrial creatures. Now this happened back in 1955. And Kelly Hopkinsville, they were both in Christian County, Kentucky. That's in western Kentucky here in the U.S., for those unfamiliar. And a lot of ufologists regard it as one of the most significant and well-documented cases in the history of UFO incidents. Now, a lot of people have said this is, due to overexcitement, the, kind of group mentality of, enough people say, hey, do you see that? I'm like, yeah, I kind of see that, the effects of excitement, kind of group mind, even been thrown off by psychologists saying, well, it was a thing of, people were seeing owls, or maybe it was a meteor and stuff. I don't think a meteor is going to come land in your field and come to your house, but I'll explain that more in a second. And what's so great is there was a book written by one of the descendants, Geraldine Stith, and who has been part of this community between here and Hopkinsville for years, and very sweet lady. I mean, you've seen her on a whole lot of different shows. Actually was one of the people who kind of helped me walk me through the stumbling, bumbling, what the hell am I trying to do, writing a book phase of figuring out what I was doing when I was first started to write my first book. But more or less, the events kind of played out like this. It was the evening of August 21st in 1955. There were 5 adults, and I think it was 7 children in the area. They all arrived at Hopkinsville Police Station, and they were just flipping out, right? And the cops were like, what's going on? And they said, look, they're small aliens. There's a spaceship that they've been attacking our farmhouse, and I've been trying to hold them off with gunfire for like 4 or 5 hours. Now, there were 2 adults, Elmer Sutton and Billy Ray Taylor. Now, they had said that they had been shooting 12 or 15 short, dark figures, and apparently these creatures would pop out of the doorway or would peer into their windows, which that's no good. You're out in the middle, I mean, in a metropolitan area that would suck, man, but you're out in the woods, the deep woods, and you've got something creepy running along your roof or along whatever. It's kind of a shades of signs. With oh man, the Phoenix guy, and so anyway, sorry, having a moment. But anyway, so the cops were like, well, this is probably not good. Maybe these are just some local yokels, and we better check it out. So anyway, ended up being 4 cops, city cops. I think it was 5 state troopers, 3 or 4 deputy sheriffs, man, freaking military people from like Fort Campbell, which is not super far from there, drove up to the farmhouse there with the Sutton place. Now, basically, they looked all over the place. They didn't really find anything initially, other than a lot of evidence of gunfire, a lot of holes in windows, man, and the front screens were blasted out, and it was just, so it was kind of like, come on, guys, and some of the people there, like I said, was like Glennie Langford and some of her kids, Lonnie and Charlton and Marion. Anyway, and it was really a kind of an odd situation. It was a really big deal. Apparently, there were some carnival workers, and they had visited the farmhouse and this and that. So apparently the next day, neighbors had told 2 of the officers that the family had packed up and left, saying that apparently these things come back at 3 in the morning. And so that was just like, man, not bad enough that they come up to their house once. Now they're sitting up here, revisiting. It's less of a isolated incident, more of a, I don't know, some sort of culling, some sort of weird, strange collection, some weird interaction with this family for some reason. As far as I know, there hadn't been something before that. So it's extremely odd. And what's even stranger is that this was picked up a lot of widespread coverage in local and national press. Initially, they did not refer to the little green men in regards to their color. That was more added to some newspaper stories, and everyone embellishes a little bit and all this and that. People were estimating the size of the creatures anywhere from 2 feet to 4 feet. Some said they had large pointed ears, claw-like hands, eyes that glowed yellow, and had spindly legs. And this version of that description was in various media later, and if you checked out, like I said, as I'd mentioned, some of the artwork and things like that. If you go to, there's a thing called Kelly Green Man Days in that area, which is like a very, very popular event that Geraldine Stith and the people in that area are over, and it's an interesting thing. It's one of those things where someone can really embrace a situation, and is there a certain circus element to it? Sure. Show me one large media event that's not. But it's just one of these strange situations that there are times when local communities will rally around a situation as opposed to trying to suppress it. We can't let people know this. We're good Christians. People are going to think we're freaks. But apparently, a ufologist, Jeremy Clark, had wrote something about that the creatures had floated through the trees, and the sounds of bullets striking them resembled bullets hitting like metal buckets, or like a hollowed metal container, and describes an odd luminous patch along a fence where one of the beings had been shot, and in the woods beyond, a green light whose source could not be determined. And now some people say that this is consistent with foxfire, a bioluminescent fungus on decaying wood. You would think at that point in the game, if they have that locally, they would have had some dealings with that. Now, as I understand, the claim that the Air Force investigators showed up the next day had been published in a number of later authors. Now, as I understand, they couldn't collaborate this, so I don't know if the people ever come out, or whoever said that they were connected with the U.S. Military were. In fact, I don't know. Could they have been, if you want to get a conspiracy theory on it, could they be men in black? Could they have been other aliens themselves, trying to damage control the situation? It's hard to say. It's one of those things you cannot necessarily nail it down, and that's kind of where you're left. But for me, I think it's a really interesting story. I thought that the fact that everything there's a couple of schools of thought. That everything has to be around a military base, or everything has to be around a major metropolitan city, or everything has to be around nuclear silos or whatnot. But the fact that it was out in the country, which of course you got this mom pa kettle vibe, and everybody's thinking, oh great, man, here these guys come, man, they must have been in the hooch and stuff. And which I've spoke with Miss Stith on this, and it was one of these things that these people, this wasn't clowning time for them. This was some truly spooky stuff to these guys, and it was life changing. This stayed with them, and you can't make. I guess you can make this stuff up, but it's one of these things that it's so strange. It's that here in our own little local area that that happened, and just the events of last night, and seeing that, which of course, thank God it wasn't to the extreme and the contact that these guys had, which again, I'm not saying that's what it was, but it makes you think, makes you wonder a little bit. So, I wonder what you guys think about it. I mean, do any of you guys that listen to this have any connection to the old Kelly, Kentucky encounter? Have you yourself had strange encounters like that? I'd like to hear about it and kind of compare notes. And I bet you these are going to be more similar than they are not. I find it interesting that people have had this sort of situation for generations and generations, and what happens is either, like I said, it's suppressed, or it's laughed off, or it's ignored altogether. So what you wind up with is people that are isolated, scared to share their story, and kind of left to fend for themselves. But I'm going to wind this down, and I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my day, and I hope you guys do too. And I want to hear back from you. I want your touch on this. Check out my page on Facebook, House of Asher. As always, follow me on Spreaker. Make sure to visit my page, stevieasher.com. Check out my books, Hauntings of the Western Lunatic Asylum, Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary. Visit Simon & Schuster, Permuted Press. Please keep an eye out for me. I will be on Coast to Coast tonight with my friend Richard Serrett at 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. Central. I want you guys there. Don't get abducted. And if you do, let me know what happened. But as the day draws long and the shadows creep over your windows, check your beds, check under your windowsill. There may be a little green man waiting for you. And above all, love yourselves, love each other, and stay scared.